Is Clair Obscur a beautiful evolution of turn-based JRPGs? Or does the inclusion of what the developers have defined as a reactive turn-based engine distort the true meaning of the genre?
I'm here.
For decades, RPG fans have embraced the comfort of the classics. Turn-based combat has not really changed. You issue commands from a menu and you just watch the numbers fly. Of course, in our industry, it was only a matter of time before a game challenged that mold. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 doesn't just challenge it, it shatters it. But it wasn't the first game to do that. Paper Mario or Legend of Dragoon first introduced the idea of action command. Clair Obscur, however, goes further, building its entire combat identity around them. Here, it's all about how well you execute choices. Every attack, dodge, parry, or special ability demands a precise and skillful input. This is the backbone of the game's reactive turn-based system. These real-time inputs are not just the simple addition of QuickTime events, but instead they ripple through the entire combat system. The result is something far more kinetic than its turn-based peers, and yet innovation often comes with a cost. By weaving moment-to-moment reactive skill into the heart of its turn-based system, does Clair Obscur Expedition 33 successfully innovate on the genre, creating a deeper, more engaging strategic experience? Or does this constant demand for precise timing ultimately erode what it means to be a turn-based RPG? To understand and answer this question, we first need to break down how the reactive engine actually works. At a glance, Expedition 33 looks like a traditional turn-based role-playing game. There's your typical turn queue. Characters wait, and when it's their turn, they choose from a list of skills to attack. Then the enemies take their turn. The characters take damage, and rinse and repeat. But what sets Clair Obscur apart is that every phase of combat is affected by the reactive gameplay, the timing-based mechanics that demand interaction from the player. It's this combination of traditional turn-based flow with moment-to-moment player skill that defines Clair Obscur's reactive turn-based engine. And it's the foundation on which the game builds everything else. I find it helps to break things out, so let's separate this into three main components: a resource economy, skills and abilities, and defensive actions. Like most combat systems, Clair Obscur runs on a combat economy. You earn action points and spend them on abilities. This resource limits what you can do since abilities cost different amounts of action points. Basic attacks serve as generators, providing small amounts of AP to fuel flashier moves. So there's tension between setting up big plays and holding back for the right moment. So far, this is pretty standard for combat economies. Where Clair Obscur diverges is in how its defense becomes offense. A primary and highly effective way to gain AP is by successfully parrying enemy attacks. Suddenly, defense is no longer a passive act of survival, but a primary and active way to move combat forward. For example, I'm fighting a mime. On its turn, the mime attacks Mael, but I manage to successfully parry. Because of the active progression system, this parry generates enough resources for me to execute a big move on my next turn. This turns your moment-to-moment skill into an accelerant. Maybe you were 1 AP short of unleashing a powerful ability next turn, but then you nailed a parry, and now you can use that ability earlier than expected. This design creates a compelling core feedback loop. You want to master defense, not just to survive, but to attack. By directly linking defense to resource generation, Clair Obscur deepens the strategic possibilities of turn-based combat. It turns resource pacing into an active choice rather than a passive wait.
Ooh, what about that one?
Of course, resource management is not the only skill Clair Obscur prompts the player to master. Building on the reactive skills system, the game further integrates reflex into an offensive gameplay through the use of quicktime events. Whenever you trigger a character ability in Clair Obscur, you're committing both resources as well as yourself and your skill. Each ability comes with a quicktime event prompt that determines its effectiveness. Time it right, and the results can be powerful, boosting damage, adding hits, or enabling combo chains. Miss it, and you might see diminished effects, interrupted combos, or worst case, a negative backfire, such as the Hell ability, which can damage your own party if mistimed. This makes skill execution a core part of the strategy. Games like Shadow Hearts pioneered this concept with the Judgment Ring, a spinning arc that requires well-timed button presses to maximize effect. The real beauty here is the system introduces true skill expression without overwhelming pressure. Most quicktime event failures are not catastrophic, but they are significant enough to push you towards mastery. Repeated use of a skill is good practice. Improvement is tangible, and when you hit the sequence perfectly, it feels really good. You earned it. This is why the system is so compelling. It doesn't just add flair and another button to press, it deepens player engagement.
You'll get used to them. We're going to see a lot more.
So far, Clair Obscur has taught us to effectively manage resource generation to build combat momentum and master our offensive precision through quicktime events. But the complexity of the reactive combat engine doesn't stop there. In Clair Obscur, the enemy turn does not translate to downtime for you. Instead, it's a full-fledged interactive phase that turns what could be a passive experience into one of the game's most demanding and rewarding mechanical systems. When an enemy strikes, the player must react in real time, choosing from one of 3 defensive actions: parry, dodge, and jump. As we spoke about before, parry is a highly incentivized action since it generates AP. A well-timed parry can nullify damage and even open the door to counterattacks. A dodge, which comes with a more generous success window, avoids incoming damage and can grant bonuses if perfectly timed. Jump is a very situational action that is not always available and provides a very large success window along with the chance to counterattack. This reactive defense model does 2 things brilliantly. First, it empowers the player with choice. You're actively defending off attacks, fighting for survival moment to moment, instead of just watching your character get pummeled. Second, and more importantly, it feeds back into the combat loop in a meaningful way. A successful parry doesn't just save your health, it fuels AP generation, while a successful jump and counter may allow for extra damage to the enemy off your turn.
I do love a challenge, but this is beginning to irk me.
What makes Clair Obscur's combat so interesting is that it's thoughtfully reactive. It isn't a twitch-based gauntlet demanding the constant high-speed response time of Sekiro or Elden Ring. Instead, it brings the same satisfying, high-stakes feel of action combat into a turn-based framework. And it does this by managing one of the hardest challenges in game design: cognitive load. Reactive skill in real-time games can be overwhelming. In Sekiro, you're constantly juggling enemy patterns, positioning, health, stamina, and more, all while trying to time a perfect parry or dodge. It's thrilling, but exhausting. Clair Obscur takes all that adrenaline and breaks it down into focused moments. When you are defending, you are focused only on choosing the right defensive response. When it's your turn to attack, the only thing you need to nail is the quicktime event tied to your skill. That's all. By isolating these reactive moments and spacing them out across the turn order, it gives you the feel of a high-skill, high-reward action game, but it also lets you breathe. In other words, Clair Obscur captures the rhythm of games like Sekiro, but without the suffocating pace.
You will not take this canvas from me.
The challenge, though, is that by removing those demands, the system could become too simple. So how did they keep the system rich and varied? Well, to find this answer, we look at the way Clair Obscur builds their foundation through its character designs, thus layering more depth into the mix. Characters like Verso rely on maintaining perfection, a mechanic that demands successful parries and dodges to keep his performance high. Mael, on contrast, can explode her AP generation through reactive defense when in the right stance. Every character's core loop ties directly into this reactive engine, but twists it in a different direction. The result is that mastering a character isn't just about knowing what skills to use, but about being able to sync with their cadence, timing, and philosophy. You're not just building a party with a tank, healer, and DPS. You're instead managing 6 different identities, each demanding its own unique playstyle and rhythm.
It felt familiar somehow.
Unlike many other RPGs where progression mostly means get bigger numbers, Clair Obscur lets you sculpt how your characters engage with the reactive engine itself. Through attributes, weapon scaling, and customizable systems like Pictos and Luminas, you are fine-tuning how each character performs under pressure, while also making them stronger. Investing in stats like agility or luck might increase turn speed or critical hit chances, but more importantly, they can determine how frequently you get to engage with reactive opportunities. This system feels similar to games like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, where raising dexterity enables an entire reactive playstyle centered around precision and speed. Layered onto this is the very unique Pictos and Luminas system, which is kind of like a gear modifier that enhances specific aspects of the combat engine. A Picto might grant bonus AP on a perfect dodge. A Lumina could increase your critical QTE success window. These elements directly amplify the reactive loop, allowing you to tailor characters to your strengths to compensate for your weaknesses. This kind of modular buildcraft is deeply satisfying. Your progression choices in Clair Obscur are intricately tied to your moment-to-moment input.
What every expedition has worked towards. I have trust in us.
Any combat system is only as good as the enemies it throws at you. In this game, enemies behave like puzzles with telegraphed attacks, varied attack types, and mechanics that demand different reactive responses from the player. Some attacks are fast flurries, best dodged. Others, like Grosse Tête, are slow, punishing blows, begging to be parried for AP gain, or unblockable slams that must be jumped. Through a reactive system like this, you start learning how to react to what, adapting your playstyle and choices to each unique situation. Throw in mechanics like the shields, where enemies block the first instance of damage, and suddenly multi-hit attacks become strategic tools. This strong enemy design that consistently tests reactive skills is crucial for Clair Obscur to fully realize the potential depth promised by its combat engine and avoid feeling like a constraint in key encounters.
Well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, it really just felt like beating old people.
So it wasn't so bad.
Am I one of those old people?
Okay, so what? Unique character classes, stat customization, gear enhancement, all this is not exactly groundbreaking in the RPG genre. But what is truly special about Clair Obscur is that every playstyle created in the game ultimately loops back to, leans on, and is defined by the reactive gameplay engine.
Tomorrow will still come.
But if you're still asking, does all this effort actually deepen the turn-based mechanic or just distort it? Well, ultimately that decision is up to you and your preference. But there's no arguing that what has been built here with Clair Obscur is a thing of systemic beauty. It's important to challenge the norms of any genre and to push boundaries in order to move forward and create true innovation. Hey, I hope you found this interesting. You agree, disagree? Big comment section down below. Have at it. Also, I have a Patreon right here. Click on it. If you like this, that's how we get more of them. For now though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.